So that's a big audience for me. Can I have some lights, please? Because I have a small experiment I want to do before I start my talk. And it also has to do with vacuum cleaning. Who of you prefers to do financial planning over vacuum cleaning? Okay, so you're a minority, because we did some research in the Netherlands and only 35% of all the people prefer to do financial planning. 65% of all the Dutch people prefer vacuum cleaning. So that's why we have a challenge ahead, because at Aegon we want people to help take responsibility for their financial futures. We don't only want to sell products, we want to make them financially more aware, and that's a challenge when people prefer vacuum cleaning above pension planning. What we see in the challenges we encounter with communicating about financial planning, that advertising doesn't motivate anymore, or it didn't motivate at all. We were just screaming and just telling, think about your pension, think about your retirement, take some actions, but we didn't motivate people to come into action. There is a call to action to go to a website, and there's more information, and you can read it, and you can read it, and we all know that people then go vacuum cleaning instead of doing something real for their financial futures. What we also saw is that clear information, like Pension for Dummies, isn't enough. You can tell it simply in childish language, you can make easy information pieces, but still people are not motivated to learn more about their financial futures. Although we think it's really important, because in America, for instance, people, one out of 3 people don't know if they have enough for their financial future. And in the Netherlands, it's the same. If you have some dreams for your financial future or for your future, you want to know if you have enough money to fulfill those dreams. Then we have another challenge, and that's what Goldstein calls the battle between your present and your future self. And I find this TED talk quite interesting, because what he tells us is that we lack imagination or belief in our future self. We cannot see ourselves predicted in the future. It's really hard to do. And there was this quote that saving for your financial future seems that it's like giving money away to a complete stranger. Who of you gives money away to a complete stranger? I don't do that often. Only when there's someone ringing at my door for a charity, for instance. But then I want to be sure that the money is going to a charity. So I'm not going to give money away in the subway, for instance. So with those challenges, we were wondering, how can we stimulate people to learn about pensions, about financial future? And we thought of 2 things. Back to the future, bringing the future to the present, so making it relevant at this moment. And the second one was gamification elements. How can we use game elements that motivate people in order to motivate them to learn about financial planning? And that resulted in Speeljetoekomst, Play Your Future. It gives everyone literally a peek into their financial futures. What we literally do is give people a peek into their financial future by asking them questions like, who are you? Are you married? What's your husband's name? Do you have children? How do you live? Do you have a car? What kind of holiday how do you spend your holidays? And doing so, we make a profile picture of how you're living at this moment. When you've finished doing so, you click on the future and you see yourself running, getting a bit older, and then you're standing in a new family portrait with the same house. Children maybe have gone out of home, still your husband or your girlfriend or someone you're living with. And at that moment you can play with your future and see what happens if you want to buy a larger house or another car, or when you want to change, for instance, your holidays, you want to make a luxury cruise or even go to the moon, because we also had some fantasy stuff in it, or things that actually can be done in 15 years from now. So you can play around with that and see how it affects your financial situation. And after it, you can also see how you can act on it. So if you don't have enough at this moment or you don't save enough, you see, okay, in the future I might have a problem. So I can adapt my wishes, or I can save now and my future self will have it a bit better and we can make the trip to the moon or buy a castle. Next slide. The results are really unique for us. In 3-year time, over 450 unique visitors came to the website. They played around for 5.5 minutes. And we're really surprised because from research done already about financial planning, we knew that people took over 1 minute, maybe 2, for their, how do we call it, the retirement planning, or just looking to the papers they receive every year. And why is it successful for Aegon or for me? Because the game makes you better in financial planning. And that makes it delivering on the brand promise. So for me as a brand manager, it's helping me fulfilling the purpose of Aegon. It's like a good service. Everything goes hand in hand. And doing my master for corporate communications, I was searching for a thesis topic and I thought, okay, let's discover whether gamification can help me as a brand manager or a communication professional to build the brand a bit stronger. How does it create engagement, or specifically brand engagement? And how can I see whether there are elements that can help me in future building other games that will bring the brand a bit further? And I was actually surprised. Doing the first research, that was a quantitative method, we did a research among 500 Dutch people, and we saw that the brand preference on the people that had played the game was 3 times higher than the normal brand preference. And to get a growth in brand preference is quite a challenge at Aegon and for any insurance company. So I was really flabbergasted, and we had a big surprise. It was like a party at our department, because finally we got some movement in the brand preference. But that made me wondering, how did that work? And I had 14 people from the online industry and branding and gaming industry in the Netherlands, and I interviewed them, and there were 3 main elements that made the difference in Speeljetoekomst for the brand. And that was the experience. Nobody expected that an insurance company would come with a game to make people financially more aware. And it was a game that didn't talk about numbers or only about income. No, it was a game that started with, who are you? And I'm the guide. We have a guide at the left side, and he is asking you the questions, giving some sarcastic feedback. And that point made it different than calculators we already had in the market. The other fact is that you make it personal, and we have those avatars. So it's new, it's innovative, and most important, it wasn't commercial. People expected from us that we would have this game in order to sell our products, but nowhere in the game you can buy Aegon products. There is, if you search a bit deeper, there is some exit links to Aegon websites, but no products were involved. And that was something that people really liked, because they say, you're really helping me thinking about how I want to live in future. The second element I discovered is involvement. By creating an avatar, your own reality, giving names, people felt involved with the game. As gamification experts, you all know the basic elements will create a certain flow, as was also discussed in previous presentations today. So making your own family picture, putting in your pets, and we made it even more fun by adding lizards, turtles, horses, castles, etc. So you could play around a bit and making your own family profile. And the last one is meaning. And that's really something that also was discussed today already. This game had meaning in real life, because the knowledge can be used in order to improve your financial situation. You can act upon it now and that creates an internal motivation to learn more about pensions. For instance, if you play the game, you get to know if there is a shortage, in this case of 2%, and you can play around with the solutions, and there are general solutions, so no products. So you can say, see what's happening when I'm gonna invest or save or do nothing or change my wishes or maybe work a bit longer. Can I fulfill my dreams? And there's also a report that you can save to your computer, and the report can be used when you go to an advisor or when you talk with someone about this is how my situation will look in 3 or 4 years or 30 years. How effective is gamification then for me as a brand manager? And I want to state that for me it's a new brand tactic. I want to use it in order to involve and engage my consumers, the consumers in the Netherlands, with the brand Aegon. As stated before, the brand preference was raised, and we can also work on elements in order to have people talk and create a kind of dialogue. 450,000 people are a really big audience to talk with, so the game made it possible for me to have like attention to your future conversation with a big audience. Secondly, the game created meaning, and it was also played by a lot of women and a lot of young people. And those two groups in the Netherlands are the most difficult groups to reach. So when we saw that the main players were between 25 and 35, and over 50%, I thought 56% were women, then we were really pleased. So we say, okay, it's a new matter in order to communicate with certain target audiences. Stating this, we also developed a new game, 3M Balance. It's available on the App Store already, not in the international App Store, unfortunately. There's something wrong with with the forms, but we're trying to put it internationally too. It's a Dutch game in which you already learn how to deal with money. Money you gain today. You have to beat minions like a pension, but also like insurance, bad luck, everything you can encounter in daily life. And this new game will help us create a new philosophy about how to deal with money, with things we are dealing with every day. And I want to end my presentation by a quote that I put in my thesis when I did all the research, because we see gamification can create engagement with the brand. That is one challenge. To keep the visitors engaged is another. And for me, that's one of the parts that I think I can still improve in Speeljetoekomst. People just visit it once, maybe twice, but then they don't come back anymore. And I want to create something that people think, okay, I'm motivated to come back and learn again. So you have to continuously to improve your game, adding elements, and give people a reason to, for instance, give them your email addresses, to have the conversation started, and keeping it in a flow, because otherwise it's just one-off, and I think that's too bad, because it's a powerful tool. So therefore I refer as a gamification as the engagement game, as the beginning of my presentation was. And I want to conclude with a motto that I use for my thesis, but also for this presentation. In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. Find the fun, snap, the job's done. My presentation is over. I hope I brought a bit of fun in pensions. And if there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.